Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching. It's Amanda and Nisanka again. Amanda here is from amandahale.co.uk. And is that your website, isn't it? And
Yes.
Amanda is a high conflict divorce coach, specifically supporting people who are going through divorce with a narcissistic partner. And I'm Nisanka from Coaching with Nasanka, and I help parents who co-parent with narcissistic partners. Never-ending, almost impossible dream. So today we are paying attention to it's our first conversation after Christmas break. So today we've got a really interesting title topic. Amanda, would you like to introduce the topic?
Sure. So, hi everyone, and today we're going to talk about how, strategy with when you're dealing with a narcissistic co-parent can be really tricky. Like there are a lot of ideas out there that, this strategy works or this strategy definitely works. And,
Yeah.
in some cases it may feel that there is no strategy that works. But ultimately, I think the overall message we want to get across is that regardless, it's so much better, you know, whether you have to co-parent or not with a narcissist, it's so much better living a life apart from them and, parallel parenting essentially.
Yeah,
But we're just going to go into, the
a little
idea
bit
of
of that.
different strategies.
Yeah.
Might work for some, which may not work for others, and etc.
Yeah. So the question is basically what we're paying attention to today is, does strategy work? You know, and the answer to that is it does sometimes and it doesn't. It doesn't other times.
Yeah.
It really does come down to how complex the situation is. Where do you live in the world? And what your circumstances are financially and culturally, religiously, and socially. And, you know, ideally speaking, these strategies that's been put in place, that's been practiced by many people, um, they work, you know, when it comes to the right circumstances. I've also spoken to many people whom I've shared these strategies with, which who face incredible amount of obstacles because of the social restrictions, because of the religious restrictions, because of the financial restrictions, and because of the all the other family and all the other involvement, enabling involvement. So it is a battle uphill. Um, but so let's focus on some of these strategies. I've got a workshop coming up on how to communicate with a narcissistic co-parent when you co-parent or parallel parent. You, in short and sweet, you cannot co-parent, you parallel parent. But I think sometimes you have been put in situations by the legal system to co-parent, so you've got to understand what strategies may work and may not work. So the workshop is all about that. But let's talk about different other scenarios. So let's talk about what would you suggest that we talk about today, then, Amanda? Let's talk. Let's pay attention to one scenario, and then let's expand, and then we'll give an understanding, or sort of we'll kind of dig deeper into what we're really talking about. Have you got anything in mind that we can share?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the strategy that a lady I've read, I've been in
Yeah.
touch with actually personally many years ago, called Lindsay Ellison. And she talks about manipulating the manipulator. And this is a strategy that can work with many. In my opinion, it works with the kind of let's say standard narcissist, but when it
Yeah.
goes into kind of malignant territory or sociopathic, it can be more
Mm,
tricky. But the idea is to just try and be two steps ahead and also appeal to them, like
mm.
what would they want to happen, and make it seem like they're winning in the scenario essentially. Does that What do you think?
Yes, yeah, that's a really good one. I think there's many people who are listening to that maybe conflicted over what kind of a instruction is that, what kind of a strategy that is that. Um, That being said, I have done what you have said. I have been 10 steps ahead of these people. I can particularly think of an example from one of my previous work situations. I knew what was going on, I knew I was being set up, and I was 10 steps ahead, and I kept quiet, but I'd been sort of collecting evidence, and that really paid off. So you can be, when you have an understanding of you're in a very toxic situation, and you can play very smart. The problem is, I am, as an individual, strictly against adapting to any manipulative tactics myself. I don't want to be the manipulative person. So it may conflict with some of the values that you bear as an individual. Do you want to be lost in this process? That's a question only you can answer. And that's why I think sometimes working with somebody to figure these things out yourself helps. So none of us, Amanda, myself, all the other people out there, are experts of your life. I think that's the message that we want to give. None of us are experts of your life. We bring a certain amount of skills, a certain amount of experience, having lived this life ourselves, and a certain amount of qualifications and training, and a great deal of intuition to help somebody. But that being said, you're the expert in your own life and in your own situation. So when you apply these strategies, you've got to ask this question yourself: is this me? Can I do that? Can I be? Am I going to make myself feel even worse by doing this? And if the answer to those questions is yes, 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 then you will have to think of something else that you need to do. I'm not prepared to manipulate and be into that, be that person myself. Even like get it. I'm not ready to give any validation to narcissistic people in my life to get what I want. I would rather not have that than having to compromise my values on that one. That's where I am. But that's an individual choice, that's an individual decision. And that also comes from me having the courage and me having the self belief in myself. Yeah, I can do without that. I'd rather be penniless than manipulating and giving the validation to the other person to get some money, if that makes any sense. Is it a hard life? Yeah, of course it's a hard life, but I've accepted it. So it really does come down to your values and how you decide it. That's the manipulation thing. And what else that can you kind of throw in, and then we can dig a bit deeper.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that it could be, like many other things, it's the wording that you give it. So
Yes.
you could say, to strategize rather than manipulate. So
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. It doesn't sit well with my values. And I've been told that I'm the worst manipulator on the planet. It just doesn't come naturally to me at all. So it doesn't resonate, and I don't want to be that. But if you put it into the term strategize, then that's a little bit different. So I guess the idea is to, in a way, profile your, the co-parent, see what the pattern of behaviors is, how do they usually do things, what works, what
Mm,
doesn't work, and figuring it out like that. So it's not
absolutely.
so much a manipulation, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be
Uh,
about being smart. It can be about 10 steps ahead of somebody. It can be about, okay, we know we can predict the behavior of this person. We can predict the answer to this, and we can just iron out all of these sort of objections, possible objections from the other side before we even think of an answer. So we can actually, those are the kind of strategies. Not everybody has got the experience to do that, and I truly believe that. Working with somebody doesn't have to be either of us. Working with somebody who's got the experience and the knowledge will help in these situations to actually come up with something. And also the second thing I would like to, Amanda, if you don't have anything to add to this one, I'd like to add some things. Okay.
yeah, no, I just wanted to quickly say that
Yeah.
in some cases, yes, or in many cases, their behavior is highly predictable, but sometimes the responses are not so predictable. And
Okay.
again, I think that borders on the malignant side or sociopathic. But
Yeah.
uh, there was a specific scenario I thought maybe we could discuss after you say
Of
what you
course.
say, but it was about, when you're in those situations where you're waiting for an answer and they're just stonewalling. And of course, the other way around, if they need an answer, then they're hounding you. But when you need an important answer, they just wait. And then you put something in the email like, um, if I don't hear from you by
Mm.
this date, then I will assume that you're in agreement. And then they wait and wait to the last minute, and then they throw all this stuff at you. And so kind of dealing with those scenarios where whatever you do, it doesn't really work. So maybe we can go back to that and you can give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's yeah, the best answer I can give you is that really depends. If you're dealing with more of a legal situation, that you've got to comply with the law, and you've got to obviously get the best advice from the lawyers who understand the narcissistic patterns of behaviors. Those are the best ones to help you out. So better to work with people who understand, or better to speak with the lawyers with that understanding and make them aware of the situation that you're in, so you have the power in that conversation, you have that control in that situation. So that's the legal. And there is that certain level of sort of radical acceptance. none
Yeah,
of this might None of this may not work.
yeah,
Okay, in that case, what's my decision? What's my power? What do I give myself permission to do in this situation? What kind of consequences am I prepared to accept if I do something? I'm not saying do anything illegal. What I'm saying is, if you're co-parenting, there are certain situations that you've got to ask the other parent, go, yeah, no, I'm not waiting for a decision.
yeah, yeah,
There are so many bills, policies, laws that protects children from harm, right? So I want you to have the understanding. Co-parenting situations, you have, as the solid parent, you have many wiggle rooms there to make decisions there. You go, no, this cannot wait. I am making that decision. I'm not waiting for anybody else's. Once I made that decision, what comes next, I'll deal with it next. So
yeah,
there is certain amount of power that you've got to understand within yourself, that you've got to, I'm not saying any of this is easy. I'm not saying any of this is fair either. This is one of the most unjustifiable situation. You're in one of those unjustifiable sort of, you just cannot, the damage is unfathomable. The damage that's been done to you is unfathomable. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. That being said, all I'm saying is, are we going to give our life away to somebody else? Are we going to succumb to somebody else's power? Are we going to take that power back? That's what I would normally ask anybody. Where does this power come back to us? Is through healing, is through working with our patterns of behaviors and sort of that feeling of not enoughness. And that is something that you can do, and that is certain level of radical acceptance, that we've got to do. If you're a single parent, you've been left with the children on your own, but you're a capable woman and you want to go out and win the world, but you have decided to be there for your children because you don't want to make them feel like they've been neglected by two parents, right? That's a decision you have made. That's an honorable decision. That's a wonderful, honorable decision, right? But you live with that decision and the consequences. You might not be able to go ahead and win the world and become the next president or a CEO of a company, but you're raising three children with love and attachment and the healthy environment, with everything that these children need in their childhood. That's your honorable job that you're doing in this world. So there are certain decisions that you've got to make yourself as an individual and be able to live with it. Doesn't mean that every day you're going to wake up feeling, oh yeah, I'm doing some honorable today. No, you're going to wake up some days feeling crap. It's like, where is my life? You might wake up someday asking, what's just happened? Why am I living this life? Where is my life? What's happened? You might ask those questions. Honor the parts of you who feel this way. Honor the parts of you who feel this way. You want to have a cry into the pillow? Go ahead and cry into the pillow because you feel like you're living a miserable life. Unless we honor the parts of us that's hurting, that's been traumatized, that's been stagnated, all of that, we will never honor the parts of us that's successful. So you've got to understand that aspect. So the strategy itself is not going to work with you as a person. Strategy is very cognitive, very in the brain thing. But our life doesn't just involve the brain and the cognitive activities, rational mind. It's driven by emotions, it's driven by, our physical sensations, which is obviously driven by emotions, and it's our energy. You harness them all and honor you as an individual. Is that okay?
No,
That's where I come from.
no, that was beautifully said, and it resonates a lot. And I would just simply add, sorry, that's my dog. I would just add quickly that in that scenario where you're struggling to get an answer, it could be that, you have to be less attached to a particular outcome.
Okay. Absolutely. Whatever happens with the narcissistic partner is a bonus. You are not attached to any outcome. You're not seeking any validation, any approval, any support from them. On the day they've decided to support, bonus. Take even go the distance and say thank you if you want to, if you feel like. Don't force yourself, but if you feel like it, say thank you. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But it doesn't mean you're going to get attached to that moment and think, oh my God, he's changed. Oh my God, she's changed. That's not what's happened. They've just simply experienced a good moment. That's just what it is, simply put. Right? And you got a bonus result out of that.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
Go
just
on.
sorry, just in the sense that, if you're tied to this one outcome, like it has to be this way, and I have to have
Yeah,
it happen on this day then you're gonna suffer. So just
absolutely.
being comfortable with the idea that it might happen this way, or it might happen this way, or I have a contingency plan if it doesn't happen the way I want it to,
Yeah.
then you're
Yeah.
giving yourself, space to breathe and to be comfortable in different scenarios.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing when you say that is be fluid like water, be flexible,
Yeah.
be in a flow. Be in a flow. That's all I think we are trying to say. When the strategy doesn't work, your option is to be fluid like water, be in the flow like water, and accept and radically accept that things haven't happened, things may never happen, and this is what, and honoring the parts of you that you have tried, you have failed, and they're all okay. They're all okay, and honor that part of you, you know. Um, and and then I just really want to emphasize the fact what you said about don't be attached to an outcome, don't be attached to an outcome. And lastly, really want to say to people, honestly, do not give your power away as an individual or as a parent. You've got 100% power within you to make the right choices for you. When your children see this power, that you acting in this power, you acknowledging this power, you're sort of acting in this power, they will recognize their own power too. Children just look up to you and they trust them. If you're co-parenting, if you're parallel parenting, and even in a normal circumstance, if you're parenting, just trust your children's ability to see things clearly. They will know who is consistently there emotionally loving them. They will know who is actually using them. They just know. They might develop behavioral patterns to serve the other parent who is not there. But that being said, you've got a healthy attachment going with your children. You've got yourself a winning situation. That's your strategy. That is your strategy. Be in the flow. Be in the flow. Don't follow anybody's advice as as the only thing
Yeah.
that will work for you. Not mine, not Amanda's, not anybody else's. We bring our own perceptions and experience and knowledge and intuition to this, but you're the expert in your own life, and you've got to understand that and acknowledge and accept that. And your decisions will be, I would say, easier, but perspectively, obviously. But your life will be easier, but put it into perspective, that word, easier.
Yes. And I just want to say, I hope I didn't put you off course, because I know that you were going to say something before.
No, I think we've covered everything we wanted to
Okay.
say. I think we've covered everything we wanted to say. We can think about that for another discussion anyway, I'm sure. I think we've
Yeah.
kind of come into the end of our time. Is there anything else you would like to add, Amanda? I think we've kind of briefed it now, but anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you covered it really well. And as I said, it was beautifully said. Um, and it's a lot about ultimately working on oneself and looking at
Absolutely.
any wound
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah, and there's a really good book that I would suggest that everybody read. It is not about narcissism at all. Viktor Frankl's book. Do you remember that book? I forgot the title of the book. What's the
Uh,
title of the book?
gosh.
Let me quickly
Is
Google it for you.
it from, gosh,
Man's freedom to man's
yes.
Viktor Frankl.
And
Um,
he has that magnificent quote.
Man
Um,
Search for Meaning. Yes, Man
yeah,
Search for Meaning.
that quote,
Read
which
that book many times.
I'm not gonna do it justice, but that time between stimulus and response or whatever is the most important period of time, because then you have that decision making. Am I going to
Absolutely.
react, or am I
Yeah,
going to? Anyways, that's one of my favorite quotes
yeah,
of his.
absolutely. I'm not comparing the two circumstances, being in an arts camp and being in a narcissistic relationship. I'm not comparing them at all. So two different scenarios. You might find some similarities in your experience with that. But Man's Search for Meaning will give you a lot of perspective um, things that towards life. I really suggest that you read that book. It gives some peace when you read it. It just gives you some peace. I think that's the end of our conversation today, and I've got a really good workshop coming up. It's free to join. I've only got 7 spaces left, by the way, and it's how to communicate with a narcissistic partner. Or ex-partner when you co-parent or parallel parent. That's coming up on the 25th of January at 7 o'clock at night. I'll just put the link and join us. Thank you very much. Amanda, have you got anything else that you like to share?
No, just if you'd like to get in contact with me, if you have any questions, please do. And my email is amanda@amandahale.co.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any questions, drop us comment, DM us, email us, and we would like to take some of your questions and create more content like that. Take care and sending love to you. Bye-bye. Hold on. What's going on? There you go. Bear with me.